Hi, I'm Isabel Turner, and this is the story of how my in-laws learned that treating family like outsiders can have devastating consequences. Sometimes the quietest person in the room holds the most power, and my story proves just that. I met Lucas Zhang during my final year of computer engineering. He was charming, driven, and seemed different from his traditional Chinese family. We fell in love quickly, and despite his parents' initial reservations about my mixed heritage, Lucas stood firm in his decision to marry me, or so I thought. The problems began subtly. My mother-in-law, Mai Zhang, would make small comments about my appearance, my cooking, and especially my career choices. A proper Chinese wife stays home to care for her family, she would say during our weekly family dinners, her disapproval evident in every word. My father-in-law, Henry Zhang, was worse in his own way. He simply pretended I didn't exist. I could handle their behavior because Lucas would usually defend me, albeit quietly. But everything changed when I became pregnant with our first child. The Zhangs owned Zhang Technologies, a mid-sized tech company that had been struggling in recent years. Henry's outdated management style and resistance to innovation had caused them to lose market share to newer, more agile competitors. Lucas worked there as vice president of operations, always trying to please his father while gently suggesting modernization. What nobody knew, not even Lucas, was that I had been building something of my own. During the 5 years of our marriage, I had launched a tech startup focused on AI-driven supply chain solutions under my maiden name. Through a series of shell companies, I kept my success completely separate from my married life. My company, Beacon Solutions, had quickly become one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the region. I never planned to use my success as a weapon. In fact, I had hoped to help Zhang Technologies modernize once I felt established enough. But fate had other plans. It was during the most important week in Zhang Technologies' history. They were pursuing a merger that could save their failing company. Henry had organized a crucial family dinner where potential investors would be present. I was 3 months pregnant at the time. The day before the dinner, my mother-in-law called me, her voice dripping with false concern. "Isabel, we decided it would be best if you didn't attend tomorrow's dinner," she said. I gripped my phone tighter. "Excuse me?" "Well, you see, in traditional Chinese culture, pregnant women are considered unlucky during business dealings. We can't risk anything going wrong tomorrow. I'm sure you understand." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Have you discussed this with Lucas?" "Of course, he agrees. It's for the best. Family company first, you know how it is." My heart sank. Lucas hadn't even warned me. When he came home that evening, I confronted him. "Mom called you." He loosened his tie, not meeting my eyes. "Look, it's just one dinner. Dad's really stressed about this merger, and if Mom thinks having a pregnant woman there might make our investors uncomfortable." "Do you hear yourself?" I interrupted. "You're letting them exclude your wife, the mother of your child, because of a superstition." Lucas ran his hands through his hair, frustration evident. "Please, Isabel, don't make this harder than it needs to be. It's just business." "Just business," I repeated slowly. "Fine, I'll stay home." Lucas seemed relieved, completely missing the steel in my voice. "Thanks for understanding, honey. I'll make it up to you." That night, as Lucas slept peacefully beside me, I made a few calls. As CEO of Beacon Solutions, I had connections he couldn't imagine. Within hours, I knew everything about Zhang Technologies' potential merger, including details that Henry probably wished I didn't know. The next morning, as Lucas left for work, I went to my home office and began setting things in motion. The investors Henry was courting had a reputation for being traditional and superstitious, but they were also known for being ruthlessly practical when it came to business. While they dined with the Zhangs, I arranged for Beacon Solutions to make a competing offer, one that was significantly better than anything Henry could provide. By the time Lucas returned home that evening, things had already started to change. "How was dinner?" I asked sweetly as Lucas loosened his tie. "Perfect," he beamed, completely oblivious. "The investors loved everything about us. Dad thinks we have the merger locked down by next week. Maybe then everyone can relax a little." I smiled, thinking about the email sitting in Henry's inbox, waiting to be opened the next morning. "That's wonderful, honey. I'm so glad everything worked out." As Lucas fell asleep, I stayed awake, watching the minutes tick by. In 6 hours, Henry would arrive at his office and discover that his miracle merger had fallen apart overnight. In 7 hours, he would learn that his biggest clients were jumping ship, and in 8 hours, he would find out exactly who owned the company that had orchestrated his downfall. Sometimes the biggest mistake you can make is underestimating the quiet ones. My in-laws were about to learn that lesson the hard way. But this was just the beginning. The real drama would unfold at tomorrow's emergency board meeting, where more than just business secrets would be exposed. The next morning, I dressed carefully in a tailored maternity suit, choosing a deep blue that projected both power and femininity. Lucas had already left for work, called in early by his father for what he assumed would be merger paperwork. He had no idea he was walking into a storm of my creation. I waited precisely 2 hours before heading to John Technologies headquarters. Long enough for Henry to discover everything, but not long enough for him to form a coherent response. Timing, after all, is everything in both business and revenge. My phone had been buzzing nonstop since dawn. First, it was Lucas. Dad's going crazy. Something's wrong with the merger. All our major clients are threatening to leave. Emergency board meeting in 2 hours. Don't worry about anything. Then my mother-in-law. This is all your fault. Somehow I know it. You've cursed our family with your presence. Lucas never had bad luck before you came along. I smiled at that last one. They had no idea what real bad luck looked like, not yet. The security guard at John Technologies recognized me as Lucas' wife and waved me through, despite the lack of an appointment. Another oversight in Henry's management. Poor security protocols. I took the elevator to the top floor, where the board meeting was already in progress. I could hear the shouting before I reached the conference room. How could this happen overnight? Henry's voice boomed. Yesterday they were ready to sign. The Beacon offer is just too good. I chose that moment to open the door. The scene inside was chaos. Henry stood at the head of the table, his face red with rage. Lucas sat beside him, tie loosened, looking shell-shocked. The board members, old friends of Henry's, sat in various states of distress. May hovered in the corner, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. "You've heard of us now," I said quietly, but my voice carried across the room. All heads turned toward me. Lucas jumped to his feet. "Isabel, what are you doing here?" "This is a private board meeting," Henry sneered. "Family members are not welcome." I smiled and pulled a folder from my briefcase. "Actually, I'm here as the CEO of Beacon Solutions. I believe you've been trying to reach me all morning." The silence that followed was deafening. Lucas' face went pale. Henry's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. May dropped her handbag. "Impossible," she muttered. Henry sputtered. "Beacon is run by someone named Isabel Turner." I nodded. "My maiden name," I explained, taking a seat at the table. "I never change it professionally. It's amazing how many assumptions people make when they don't bother to look deeper." "You're the one who ruined our merger," Lucas whispered, his voice barely audible. "The same way you ruined my dignity last night," I replied. "Turns out pregnant women aren't so unlucky after all. Just ask our investors." "Oh wait, they are my investors now." May found her voice again. "You deceitful little." "Careful, May," I interrupted. "You might want to hear my offer before you finish that sentence." I opened my folder and began distributing documents to the board members. Zhang Technologies is now facing a crisis. Your major clients are leaving. Your merger has failed and your technology is years behind the competition, my competition. But I'm willing to offer a solution. Henry's face turned from red to purple. "We don't need your charity." "It's not charity," I continued calmly. "It's business. Beacon Solutions will acquire Zhang Technologies at fair market value. All employees will keep their jobs, though there will be some changes in senior management, of course." "You can't do this," May shrieked. I stood up slowly, one hand resting on my visible baby bump. "Last night, you said I wasn't family. You excluded me because I'm pregnant. You've spent years treating me like an outsider. Well, now you get to experience what being an outsider really feels like." The board members were already reading through my offer, murmuring among themselves. They could see the numbers clearly. Zhang Technologies wouldn't survive without this deal. Lucas finally spoke up, his voice shaking. "Why did you tell me about this?" "Some things are just business," I replied coolly. "And as you so kindly pointed out last night, I'm not a part of this family, so I'll make my own way." After several tense moments, one of the board members spoke. "I've seen the numbers. This is a solid offer. We'd be foolish not to take it. Henry slumped in his chair, utterly defeated. His own flesh and blood had just done to him what he had tried to do to me: exclude, belittle, and ultimately replace. The deal was done. Jang Technologies was acquired by Beacon Solutions. Lucas continued working for me as my second in command, and we spent the following months transforming the company, bringing in innovation and new ideas. As for my in-laws, they never fully accepted me into their family, but they learned to keep their mouths shut when it came to business. I kept my maiden name and remained CEO of Beacon Solutions. My daughter will grow up knowing that she doesn't need permission to sit at any table, and if someone dares to try to exclude her, she'll know exactly what to do: build her own table. And next week, when the Zhangs are invited to our family dinner, I'll be sitting at the head of the table, pregnant with our second child, knowing full well that sometimes the best revenge isn't about tearing others down. It's about building yourself up so high that they can only watch, regretful, from the sidelines.